Welcome to the broadcast My Fruit Crumbles. Put the kettle on, pull up a throne, come sit by the riverside. Let's have a little chat, shall we? PFB says, River, what do you think of the Queen's mismatched earrings? Not a fan myself. What do you think? Well, PFB, wonder what that stands for. I must confess to you, I did not notice that the Queen was wearing mismatched earrings, even though I told you that she was wearing gold earrings and pearl earrings. I thought they were part of the same confection. But it turns out that they were indeed mismatched, and I didn't notice. You brought it to my attention, but also it came out in the press. The press made quite a fuss of it as well, because it was quite amusing to see a Queen with mismatched earrings, probably for the very first time. As we've discussed, Queen Camilla wears clip-ons, as I used to wear, and still will from time to time, but she wears clip-ons and nobody knows whether it was intentional or it was accidental. But it's rather fun to hold forth on it, and it'd be rather fun if she does it again in the future, I rather fancy. But you're mad at it, you didn't approve of it. What did you say? Not a fan myself. Well, I think it has its charm, to be honest. I'm not mad at it at all, so I'm not as much of a stickler as I thought I might be. Sometimes a little amuse-bouche is refreshing, isn't it? I'm not mad at all. And today I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. I'm not sure if I've ever done it before in the broadcast, but I am wearing mismatched earrings. Did you spot it? Only very slightly. This side I'm wearing my crystally danglies that I love and you've seen before, and this side is a slightly larger stone that has baby blue, a sort of watery baby blue. So I'm being a bit of a punk rebel and mismatching, just like the Queen. And apparently it's been all the rage the last few years. Vogue rave about that style. Kate Moss loves it. She thinks it's cool. Gwynnie likes to mismatch and wear one long one and one short one. Sometimes you find a pair of ball sacks like that, don't you, my dear, where each side is rather mismatched with the other, and you think, how did that come out as one article? But it happens from time to time, you know. It's always surprising what you find, isn't it? But sometimes that's the rub. But she happened to be wearing these earrings while she was visiting Deacon and Son, a 175-year-old family-run business, a jeweller's in Wiltshire. So it was rather apt. And I also want to mention that I did ask what you thought of Prince Edward's eyes in one of those photographs from the previous broadcast, because they're so fierce, aren't they, and ferocious in a wonderfully attractive, sparkling, vital way. And I was trying to think of which animal it put me in mind of. I thought, is it weaselish, foxy? No. Well, you came up with some wonderful suggestions as usual, and one of you did note that they put you in mind of the late Queens rather than the late Dukes. One of you said reptilian. Well, I'm not going to go along with that, my dear. No, not reptilian from where I stand. Another said eagle or hawk eyes, and I thought that was rather better than what I said, and you said that they are piercing eyes. Indeed they are. And somebody said raccoon, fierce but with laughter in the eyes. Well, it's all food for thought, and it gave me some merry giggles. But many of you also said that you find Prince Edward very attractive, and he is a very attractive man, and some of you have also said that he's filled out a bit than he was a few months ago. Perhaps you might be right. Well, you should audition for a part in The Wind in the Willows, shouldn't he, my dear, with all these comparisons being drawn to the woodland creatures. He could audition for The Wind in the Willows. We know that he likes giving a turn on the stage, doesn't he? So he could do that. Meghan could play Toad of Toad Hall really rather well. She has the same sort of silhouette and eyes. And Harry could play Ratty. And Doria could have a cameo as the mole, couldn't she? Or she can battle out that part with Omid Scobie between the two of them. It's quite delicious to think of. Niceties over, we turn to the One Love premiere in Kingston, where Harry and Meghan made their first official appearance of the year. She deigned to grace us with her presence. And she wore her Jennifer Mayer hammered disc earrings to display her ethnic credentials. Her clutch bag was called the Has. Prince Harry, her favourite clutch. Oh, and she clutched on to the prince with all her might. She's not going to let that one go until she's bored of it. The Has handbag is all the rage at the chateau of the Riven Rock, Montecito, but nowhere else. Nowhere else is that one in style or in fashion. But the other clutch that she was toting was that Jimmy Choo that she's been running around with for years. They arrived together with the president of Paramount and Nickelodeon, Brian Robbins, hobnobbing, revelling in the limelight of the red carpet. And I'm gonna swish all the puffball layers of my fancy skirt, my bespoke Carolina Herrera skirt, this bustle extravaganza. I'm gonna bustle in, I'm gonna muscle in, let me swish, swish, swish. Here goes Auntie's skirts. It was bespoke Herrera, a chalet silk skirt. And I'm gonna sashay, chante, and sway as Todger toddles at heel. He has his uses, my little Todge. He's got his uses, my darling H. He can lead me to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Bob Holness, and I can primp and preen and blink like a giddy ingenue as I prepare to dazzle with my beauty and charm and my poise. Did you see her primping and preening away? And the blinks, blink 182, 182 blinks she gave while she was waiting to be introduced to the Prime Minister. Hi, sparkle eyes. Oh, it drips, doesn't it, that treacle? It drips. Oh, honed to perfection. So sparkling she is. So graceful. But it's the preparation as she prepares to meet him that you see. The starlet, some might say the harlot, but actually I rather enjoy that word, so I shall not grace her with it. That starlet, bracing herself for the audition, gearing herself up, getting in character, waiting for the moment before she pounces. It's interesting, isn't it? They revelled in cozying up to the Prime Minister, Mr. Holness, the one who insulted Prince William, in fact, by telling William that he was intending to ditch the monarchy. Remember that? He told him to his face in a public gathering during an official visit. And I will say, at least he didn't stab William in the back. He did it from the front. So at least there is some honour there. Although, I have no problem with the fact that he wants to change Jamaica in that respect. No problem at all. It's not that. It was the fact that I thought it was rather ungentlemanly and rather unchivalrous that he did it in that style at that moment during the official tour. My understanding is that he gets on very well with Prince William and they like each other. That is my understanding. And William wasn't sensitive enough to take the sort of offence that his brother might do. But all the same, the moment was a little unsettling and a little ungallant. Do you understand? And maybe that was the draw that pulled in the Harkles coming to this particular shenanigans overseas. I'm sure it's a fine documentary or movie, whatever this Bob Marley affair is. And I'm sure they'll be jamming in ragamuffin style with the best of them, enjoying themselves. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But what pulled them to take that jet on, is it 6-hour flight to Jamaica, whatever it is, at the drop of a hat to watch a movie at some shindig with a few 3 glasses of booze? What inspired them to look over the travel list credentials of Green Eco Travel and decide that, yes, this is a really important, crucial event, I just have to go? And that is what Harry said when he was asked. I just had to be here. Wouldn't give anything away other than that. Who exactly did he want to rub shoulders with, apart from the ones that we've seen already? Well, some of it seems obvious. Some of it might be a little more under cover of darkness. But Marlene was there as well, not Marlene Headley, dragged up as Ngozi Fulani, but this time it was Marlene Malahoo Forte, Jamaica's Minister for Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and she's the one who's overseeing the severing of British ties to Jamaica. And I will say it again, good for the people of Jamaica. If it is time, it is time. I have no anachronistic rear view glance at this. If it is time, then it is time. Although it will indeed be interesting to see which regimes or nations or interlopers or donors, apparent benefactors from other prospering corners of the globe are going to be stepping in, who are waiting in the wings to pounce upon a place like Jamaica, as they have done with places like Barbados and this kind of thing. It'll be very interesting to see. But can we please remind ourselves and the world that we're talking about two private citizens, supposedly, even though the worldwide privacy tour continues in earnest. We're talking about two private individuals. They are not world leaders. They're not heads of state. They are not ambassadors, despite the fact that the Duchess of Sussex continues to ring around politicians with their little anonymous phone calls, try and get them on side. Diplomatic representation. They are not diplomatic representatives. They are celebrities. They're celebrities. They're not working royalty. On to the aesthetics of the piece. She looked good. I shall speak plainly. She looked good. She looked fine. I think she looked quite a bit fresher than we've seen. Some of that is always due to the angle the photograph is taken, the lighting, the circumstance, whether it's outdoor, indoor. It can play a huge part. I can switch up a look at the drop of a hat, as I'm sure many of you ladies can, my dear. At the drop of a hat, it's a little trick that a lot of us have, isn't it? And you can add a bit more lip or do a little bit more wing or a bit less of everything and totally shake up how your bone structure looks. You know, a dab of highlighter here, something to make the light bounce, you know. All the tricks in the book, and she's got a full glam squad that follow her everywhere. So people don't always take that into occasion. But I do feel that there is the possibility that something might have been filled a little bit. And while I say that, I also want to say that I have no problem with ladies or gentlemen that want to try a bit of filling. I've yet to turn down that particular avenue, and I'm not sure that I ever would, because I do know quite a number of people who have had it. Some have had it very successfully. Some have had filler that is so discreet that I didn't pick up on it, and I'm quite good at scrutinizing. But if it's done with a gentle hand, artistically, by somebody that knows the facial anatomy, it can be done very well. Others with not quite so much aplomb. So I'm well aware of the pros and cons, but one of the major cons, you see, because I would quite like, just for the fun of it, to try a squirt here, try a squirt there. But the thing that puts me off, and I'm quite glad that it puts me off, is the fact that the antidote to it, the stuff that shrinks it up if you've put in too much or you don't want it anymore, you know, they say, oh, you can dissolve it, you can dissolve it. Well, the stuff they use is called hyaluronidase or some such thing. And you see, what they don't really tell you is that when you put in that antidote, it doesn't only take away the hyaluronic acid or whatever it's called that is part of the filler that plumps you up, it also takes away your natural hyaluronic acid. So you are left, it's more or less successful depending on the person, how much you're putting in. But if you've had a great deal put in and you need a great deal taken out, it can dissolve away your own natural whatever's there plumping you up. So you're left with a sort of double dip, and then you're on this vicious cycle of plumping it up even more to try and balance that. And to me, the technology isn't quite there. You know, if you could go trigger happy and try a bit here, try a bit there, and then think, oh, I don't like it, yeah, dissolve it, take it out. And it was easy with no repercussions, that'd be quite good fun. But, you know, it is a bit of a gamble, despite having several friends that rave about it and a few that don't. A bit of a gamble. I'm digressing, but what I'm saying is, if she has been filled, because we all know that she has been criticised for having the look of an Ozempic fan over the last few months. Well, none of that was really evident in these photographs, and her face was filling a rather fetching heart shape. I actually rather liked the shape, but I don't know if it's because she's been eating a little bit more. I don't know if it's because she's been out in the California sunshine. But she doesn't look like a raisin on this occasion, a California raisin. She does look a little more lively in the cheeks. If it is something that's done, it's been done just right. I've got to tell you, it's not overdone in my opinion. I see her being pulled apart online, but I think she looked absolutely fine. if I was being mega picky, because, you know, I'm here to nitpick, the parting was very severe and it put me in mind of Bessie Wallace-Simpson, and Wallace-Simpson's hair only really suited Wallace-Simpson. And even then sometimes it was hard to swallow. But on Meghan, I mean, you know, not really so keen. And the other thing I didn't really like was the line of the bust area on her top. I was not keen on the line of the décolletage, if you will. I think that the neckline actually could have been a V shape, coming into a V shape rather than straight across. It's these little details that make a big difference, because the décolleté plunged a little too low down from some angles, and I'm afraid it was not flattering. You know, it's not going to be flattering if there's no cleavage or no upholstery, so to speak of. But I am nitpicking, and I do understand they're in a different climate, a different country. But, you know, if you're going to get it 90% right, you might as well aim to get the whole thing right, might you? Harry was perhaps aiming for that more loose Jamaican style too. But for my money, I would lose that black leather pendant that he was wearing. I think it's juvenile and silly, and I think that he should do up one button. Yes, he's in a hotter climate, but he's not on the beach. Do up a button, dear. He put me in mind of a hosteling backpacker. But the pawing and the clasping and the stroking, you know, I had to remind myself, to be honest, that there are others there doing the same. There were couples hand in hand. William and Catherine do it sometimes. So maybe I'm too stern. Maybe I need to take a step back at that. But there's just something about those two, isn't there? A real Darby and Joan pair they are, but without any of the endearment of it. A real Darby and Joan pair, hands all over each other as if they're just can't bear to be pulled away from the bedroom. And oh, really, it makes the stomach boggle, let alone the mind. Another thing that I spotted, which I thought was rather rare these days, were French tips to the manicure. Did you spot little French tips? And I've got to tell you that I'm a secret fan of French tips. I am. You know, in my sort of world, French tips are considered rather common, rather passé, and sometimes downright vulgar, my dear, but I've always had a soft spot for them. Truly, I have. I've always had a soft for those French tips. If they're done well, yes, I rather like them. So that was a win for me. Yes, it was. Well done, Meghan. Well done. You know, I'm going to give her props. Where warranted. But the gurning photo opportunities, as usual, were vulgar. All this fake chummery. Oh, besties, new besties all over the place. It's the behaviour of reality television stars. F-list, H-list, L-list, this kind of thing. Trashy reality TV stars. That's what it's boiled down to. His father is the king of this realm and 14 others. Need I say any more? This is their second trip to Jamaica as a couple, I hear tell. The other time was in 2017 for Tom Inskip's wedding, and Harry also went to Jamaica for the Diamond Jubilee Tour in 2012. Much more regal business, because he was representing the late Queen. This time he's representing his own Queen, and if she wants to find out what a real Queen's all about, and it's too late to learn from the late Queen, she needs to start tuning in to the River broadcast, and I won't be at all surprised if she's been doing that eagerly, like an eager beaver, the hungry beaver that she is, like an eager beaver tuning in with her little fandom for the River broadcast. We know that the rest of her family watch me. Both the Thomases have been in touch, and it wouldn't surprise me if she is laid up on her sofa in Montecito with a bag of chips and Doria, having a little giggle and being a little sour fruit from time to time. Well, everyone's welcome here in the fruit basket, but are they going to learn from what I tell them? This is the thing. And Meghan, of course, had her first wedding in Jamaica to Trevor Engelson at the Jamaica Inn, and he was a lot better looking than number 2, wasn't he, in my estimation. From my memory, I don't really have a sharp image of him, and now what she got the spare. But he had a title, of course. He had a title and connections and could raise her to the platform that she so desired. Now, in the previous broadcast, we spoke about Harry's appearance as a legend of aviation and how, in my opinion, he insulted John Travolta with his sense of humour, and the vast majority of you concurred. In fact, I didn't see one that disagreed, really, with the fact that he was ingracious and rude. However, Paul Sandven made a very good point, which gave me food for thought, and that is that, well, she said, John Travolta nominated Harry for this ridiculous award. No sympathy for him at all, as this event was all about money. Inviting an ex-royal backfired. Next time, give the award to a humble person who deserves it. Well, I don't know whether Mr. Travolta invited him or not. I'm sure you guys all know this and delve into it more than me. I know lots of people say that he did. But whether or not he didn't, and certainly if he did, but whether or not he didn't, he certainly went along with this whole charade. And he certainly went along with issuing the award and everything. So you make a very good point. One that went over my head in the moment, Paul Sandven, or Paula. You make an excellent point. Perhaps my affection for Mr. Travolta clouded my thought. And, on the one hand, one could say that perhaps he looks for and sees only the good in people like the late Queen did. There are people like that, and that should be, that is a quality to admire in people, if he's met Harry and Meghan and he happens to have seen the side of them that he very much likes and he's judging them on that aspect, then, I do get that. But on the other hand, on the fuzzy end of the lollipop, Mr. Travolta has evidently been able to witness, as we all have, the disparagement of Harry's own brother, his father, his sissy-in-law, his stepmummy, the whole parade, including Granny. So, yes, Mr. Travolta, if that is indeed the case, you went along with this knowing Harry's history. I don't mean to be a hypocrite in regards to what I said in the previous broadcast, but in that respect, yes, well, suck it up then. Okay, suck it up, get on with it. And he did post a picture of the whole affair to his Instagram, didn't he, afterwards? So, although he would have perceived that slight, if he wants to be Mr. Happy and Mr. Nice and override it, fair enough. But to my eyes and the way that I receive it, it makes him look, and perhaps I'm using the word in the wrong context here, but the word cuck comes to mind. This sort of cuckolding affair, dismissing Mr. Travolta with a laugh and a giggle and some banter and accusing him of dining out on his late mother's memory, all this kind of thing. Vulgar, vulgar, vulgar to me and to most of you. Vulgar, 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 vulgar. But maybe Mr. Travolta is doing a Sandy and too pure to be pink. Perhaps he's not as sullied as those Rizzos out there like me who can see through all that kind of wickedness and see the mischief behind it. But whatever the weather, one can't say that he didn't have fair warning by regarding their behaviour over the last few years. So, I certainly take your point, Paula Sandven. Fergie emerged today, the Duchess of York, and she was unmade up, and I have to say it just made me smile. And I truly mean this, my dears. I think it is truly a beautiful thing to see somebody who will often dress up a bit and wear a bit of makeup and was once actually getting work as a model for a time, I think back in the 90s. It's nice and refreshing to see her unmade up like this, isn't it? It shows a lack of vanity and authenticity, and I love glam too, as you can imagine, my dear, so I'm not pitching one aesthetic against the other. I love ladies that glam up as well, a la Joan Collins. Did you see her in her wig and cosmetics and wonderful outfit was it last week or the week before, at the age of 90, looking absolutely dazzling? Love that just as much, my dear, so don't get me wrong, but there is something gorgeous, scrumptious in fact, about seeing a lady unmade up in this way. It is the confidence that is the attractive thing, isn't it? It is the confidence, isn't it? It is the confidence to do so that also brings out that attractive magnetic quality as well. She was pictured leaving King Edward VII Hospital, where she's being treated by a consultant dermatologist, and she told people waiting outside, "I'm fine, thank you." And we continue to hold her in our prayers and good thoughts, don't we, my dears? Meet Jonathan, the 192-year-old tortoise. He held an audience with the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Edward, on the South Atlantic island of St. Helena, which is a British overseas territory, as Prince Edward is touring around. And previously, Jonathan met Edward's grandpapa, King George VI. Many years ago, in 1947, he met King George and Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret Rose and the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. And then 10 years after that, he met Prince Philip. And Jonathan has lived on the island since the 1880s, when Victoria was on the throne. Isn't that something, my dear? And he just goes about his life, munching away, having a stroll, and he's in rude health. The Seychelles tortoise is thought to be the oldest living land animal in the world, even older than the Duchess of Sussex. And he looks a little bit like her too, doesn't he? I don't mean to disparage you, Jonathan dear, but there is a resemblance. As I say, St. Helena is a British overseas territory, and the last royal visit there, I believe, was Princess Anne. The Princess Royal visited back in 2002, so it was a very long time ago. It was a very big deal for them to have Prince Edward in town, and so much so that a holiday was actually called, a public holiday was announced, and Prince Edward is there for 4 days. And the Duchess of Edinburgh took part in a ladies' workshop at Harris Girls Academy in East Dulwich. This was part of a programme that's promoted by Wellbeing of Women, of which Her Royal Highness is a patron. The workshops educated teenage girls on ladies' health and how to get doctors to take one seriously when one asks for help. And Sophie wore the Prince of Wales Highgrove heritage scarf that we saw round about Crimbo and New Year, didn't we? Lovely to see her wearing it again. And the necklace was the Diamond Slice by J. Felt, and she paired it with a Helmut Lang twill blazer and a top by Sandro Esterline, a woven blouse affair. I love that colour. And the Clio clutch was by Sophie Hasberg. And the Princess Royal visited Save the Children in Farringdon, and she's been patron since 1970. And the wonderful green ensemble included this dogtooth jacket in emerald by Cotswold Collections. And I looked it up online. It's very reasonable, you know. It's under 200 quid. If anybody fancies a go, under 200 quid that is. And it looks like great quality, doesn't it? And the colour is just divine. And she met with several teams, including humanitarian-focused teams and ones that were focused on the UK impact and well-being. And she took part in some investiture ceremonies. She conducted them at Windsor Castle. And a notable recipient was Sir Stephen Frears, who was the director of The Queen. Remember that movie? And then there was a bunch of folk that I've never heard of, to be honest, so I can't be bothered to name them. Simon Dalgleish was one of them, but the great and good that I've never heard of, I'm sure. Thank you for sharing your coffee or tea break with me, my dears. I hope you dunked a few tasty biscuits into it and munched away while I was gabbling on. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care, my luscious fruits. Leave me a nice, juicy comment too, and let me know what you've been up to, and let me know whether you think Meghan's been filling or not. And as I say, I've got no problem if she has. It might have been a good idea. I'll speak to you next week, my dears. No, not next week, next time. Who knows when I'll be back. Whichever the way the wind blows, the river follows the current. You see, my dear. Toodle pip.